Hey guys, how are you? I hope that my audio is better today. It was cutting in and out during my stream yesterday, and it was driving me crazy, and I'm not sure why. So now I can hear myself clearly um, in the ear thingies. So I think we're going to be okay today. Hi SARS. Yeah, catch the replay by all means. All right, guys. So I'm back today, and I have a couple of things that I wanted to start off with that have nothing to do with Gorlic. I actually made notes so that I wouldn't forget what I wanted to say. First of all, we're going to be talking again about Michael Vick, and I posted in the description box a documentary called The Champions, and it's about the case, and also it's about the dogs and what happened to the dogs, and how up until the Michael Vick case, the procedure had always been that dogs rescued from dogfighting were considered to be too dangerous to be accepted into people's private homes as pets, or therapy dogs or anything like that. And a lot of people had given up on these dogs and assumed that they were too dangerous. And it was only because of the very, very hard work of a select number of people who were very patient, dedicated, and kind, and determined that 47 of the dogs were rescued and not euthanized. Only out of the 51 rescued, 47 survived, and so only 4 had to be euthanized, which was great news and revolutionary. Hi, Buggy. What you doing in here? Hang on a second. I'm going to close the door. Hang on. In any case, The Champions is available on YouTube, and I strongly advise you, if you care about this topic, if you care about the victory dogs, if you care about the case, and you want to see a really uplifting series of stories about a bunch of dogs that were horribly abused, dogs that were considered to be too far gone to ever live a normal doggy life. By all means, watch it. It's very, very good. Linked in the description box. So, this is really out of left field. It comes out of nowhere, but I thought that I would bring it up. So, So I was watching, because I get up very early in the morning and I figure, what the hell, might as well watch something. And I was watching a video that Amberlynn Reed made about Salty Crab, with whom she is squabbling at the moment. Now, one of the things that Salty Crab said, and if it hadn't been for her saying this, I wouldn't have mentioned it. Salty Crab made a reference to Amberlynn and her bleeding, and it was a really tasteless nickname that she gave Amberlynn, and then basically harangued Amberlynn because Amber did not go. The minute that she started experiencing problems, she didn't go to the gynecologist. Now, this topic has been discussed to death. I thought that the nickname that Salty Crab came up with was vile. and inappropriate and disgusting, but that is exactly what a person does when they've dehumanized their subject to the point that anything goes, anything is fair. I think that I shared with all of you, well, not all of you, I don't know if all of you were with me when I had my old YouTube channel, but I shared the story about what happened to me, and that is that I started presenting with symptoms of cancer 2 years before I was diagnosed. And I knew that something was very, very wrong. My abdomen was swelling alarmingly. My belly was filling with ascites, my abdomen. My blood pressure was through the roof because I had so much fluid in my abdomen that it was squeezing my heart, my lungs, my stomach. I was having a very hard time walking because I had gained so much weight because of this fluid in the abdomen. And even though I had never had GERD before, and I developed it as a result of my stomach being compressed by all this fluid, and it got to the point that it was so bad that I couldn't hold anything down, not even water. I was vomiting water. I couldn't hold food down. I couldn't hold liquids down. I could hold nothing down. Everything was coming back up. And my acid was really bad. And it wasn't until it became unbearable after being misdiagnosed, by the way. Again, and I went to a gastroenterologist, and he took one look at my belly and knew that something was very wrong. And I ended up getting a CT scan, and that's when the tumors were discovered. But I put it off because I had gone on the web and I took a look at my symptoms. And a lot of the websites pointed me in the direction of ovarian cancer, which is a very, very deadly cancer. And it also said that if your abdomen swells to a certain point, that means that it's very advanced, and that means that the likelihood that you will survive diminishes dramatically. And I was diagnosed at stage 3C, and if I had put off getting the CT scan for another month or two, it would have reached stage 4. So when it comes to cancer, when it comes to being frightened of symptoms, and you start putting it all together, avoiding getting bad news is not unusual. It isn't. And I don't like it when people come along. It was bloody raglan or something having to do with bloody rags. It had to do with Amber Lynn's bleeding. And it pissed me off. It did. I think that we can criticize people. We can say, I think that this person is lying and here's why, or we can criticize Amber for trying to blame Becky for everything. And we can criticize that. That is absolutely acceptable. But when it comes to serious health issues, if you get to a point where you are afraid that you might have cancer or something equally serious or reaching that level of seriousness, it is not unusual to not want to know, to avoid the reality of it. So I thought that Salty Crab's behavior was shitty and horrendous. I thought that the little nickname she gave Amber Lynn was disgusting. And I thought that Amber Lynn had every right to be upset about it. I mean, you can criticize Amber Lynn for a lot of stuff. You can criticize her for putting off visiting the gyno and all of that. But let's just try to maintain some level of decorum and decency. And I also wanted to point out, and this is out of left field because this was a video that popped up in my recommended. And it's by a woman named Annie Lynn, who has BPD, and she was talking about BPD, and it would have been informative. It would have been informative and interesting if she had just stuck to talking about herself and not extrapolated and talked about Amber Lynn and why she does or does not have it. I mean, we can Um, exactly. Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, such a great show, by the way. Um, Here's the problem that I have with people like this Annie Lynn person, or people who come forward and say, I am a BPD expert because I have it. No, it just means you have it. It means that you've gotten treatment for it, and it means that you found something that works for you. It doesn't mean that you're a psychiatrist. It just means that you can provide tips and that kind of thing. Here's my problem with it. When I was first diagnosed with cancer, I was chatting with one of my friends from Brown. Hi, my love. And she told me that she had a high school friend who was my age and who had been battling ovarian cancer. And she said, maybe you can reach out to her because she might have some tips for you. This woman that I ended up contacting was my age. We had been diagnosed at the same time, literally within like a month or two of each other. We were at the same stage. We were both ovarian cancer stage 3C. We had gone through the same operation. We had gone through the same chemo treatment. Everything was identical. Everything. I mean, it was amazing how we were like mirror images of each other. Her cancer came back and it killed her. And I am sitting here 11 years in remission. 11 years. I survived and she didn't. Which means that two people can have the same condition, the same illness, the same diagnosis, the same everything. And it doesn't mean that the treatment that works for one is necessarily going to work for the other. Why did she die and I survive? I have no idea. I don't know. But the point is that there is no one size fits all when it comes to mental health, when it comes to physical ailments, any of that kind of stuff. So I resent it when people get online and they pretend that they can either diagnose you or they can tell you what's what and what you're doing wrong and all that. You don't know that person. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know whether they have been misdiagnosed. I was misdiagnosed with bipolar 2 when I had cancer. And it was because my hormones were so out of whack that they were affecting my thought patterns. And I was misdiagnosed. I didn't have a mental illness. I had cancer. So anyway, I was very close, vultures. I was very, very close. I'm very lucky to be alive. And I do mean lucky, and in the sense that I got the right doctors, the right treatment, the right chemo protocol, all of it. And I caught it in time. So you just never know. And there's a real rash of people who think that they know best on the platform when they're out there telling somebody else that they've never met what to do and all of that crap. It's nonsense. All right. So today, we're going to return to a certain subject. Garlic bread. Garlic bread, you really thought that you were going to pull a fast one, right? You really did. You thought you were going to get clever, didn't you? I should have known when you said that Inferno and Bridget were your researchers. And I did know. I did know in the back of my mind. Bridget, who made it a point to research my career, my life, my work history, and was shopping around information about me to other creators because she had done a deep dive into my my work. She was on Twitter lying and saying that I had been fired from my job when she knew goddamn well that I was fully employed. She continued to spread the lie that I had been fired from my job, that I wasn't actually working when she knew goddamn well that I was. She participated in the dogpiling that Samantha Diva did when she was tweeting at VOA at my job, at VOA Africa, when I worked there. Samantha Diva, who was stalking my every move and who knew, and Bridget would have known, that when I was at VOA, I was on the air every single day. I was on TV every day. I didn't show my face, but I was doing either TV packages or I was doing voiceovers. I was narrating the open of the show. And Bridget knew that, but she decided to go on Twitter and lie about me because that's who Bridget is. This Inferno guy was one of Hannibal's biggest simps. Hannibal, the woman beater. And this is who Gorlic has in his corner, a demented, obsessed, weird woman who will latch on to any man that will pay attention to her. A woman whose only community is Gorlic and Jan at this point, and maybe Edna. And this Inferno individual, who the less I know about him, the better. I have no desire to delve into the Inferno thing. Now, it is true that I am furious. I am furious that Yo Mama decided to make light of what happened with Michael Vick in those clips. I'm sick and tired of his fucking race baiting, which apparently he's been doing for years. He's a liar. He's a piece of shit. He's a dogpiler. He came into the community, and the first thing he did was do this to figure out who to latch onto and whose message to spread around. That didn't work so well for you, did it, Yo Mama? Right? Maybe you should have been more careful in choosing who to simp for and whose ass to kiss when you first came to the community. But I'll have more on that in a bit, not now. But Gorlic Bread, you really are a piece of shit, aren't you? You really, really are. Hey, Kimmers. You see, one of the things that we've come to learn in the community is that when somebody accuses you of something very serious, 9 times out of 10, it's projection. If they accuse you of being a criminal, being mentally ill, being abusive, being a bad parent, being whatever, chances are that the person pointing the finger is the one who's guilty of it. This has been consistent in the community. Consistent. Now, Yo Mama, when he returns, will have the opportunity to explain his shitty, disgusting Michael Vick comments and the thing about the cat and everything else. I could give a fuck less what happens to him or to his channel. He did damage to me. He did damage to Negz. He did damage to us personally. So whatever happens to him, he's the one who has to pull himself out of the flames. It's not my job, not my problem. I don't like his gamer humor. I don't like his bullshit. I don't like his lies. And I don't like how fucking lazy he is when he goes after people and doesn't do his research. I don't like it. But Gorlic Bread. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Oh, what a web we weave when we practice to deceive. Isn't that right, Ryan Moody? You see, when I did my first video on, or my first live stream about the squabble between the two of them, I made it abundantly clear that I can't stand either of them. I think that both of them are pathetic. I do. I have never defended Gorlic Bread, ever. I have never come forward and said that I think that Gorlic Bread is an honest dealer. Gorlic Bread is a fucking liar. We all know his past and what he's done to women in the community. We all know that. So that only a woman as pathetic and desperate as Bridget would want to have anything to do with him. But it's a community full of lonely, unhappy shut-ins and cat ladies. And so, the fact that they would seize onto a man like him does not surprise me, given the other creators that they are so fond of. Gorlic, you weren't quite forthcoming, were you? You weren't. And Breezy, yes. I want to show you something. Let me figure out. I think that I'm going to start with this. We need some background. Now, you all know how triggered I get when it comes to shit like dogfighting, and when it comes to Michael Vick. I don't like people who defend him. I don't like people who make excuses for him. I don't like people who engage in whataboutery. Well, why is it that you're so concerned about dogs instead of fill in the blank? It's always fucking whataboutery. Always whataboutery. Why do you care more about these animals than you do about... And then they insert their... the cause du jour. You care more about dogs than you do about kids, making some ridiculous accusation as if this is a zero-sum game, as if some of us aren't capable of caring about things more than one thing at a time, right? But this is always the argument. I want to show you something. There are two things that I want to make clear to you. All right, I want you to check this out. Short little piece.
Today's latest from the Michael Vick dogfighting case. Two of his alleged cohorts pleaded guilty today. Now that all three co-defendants have entered plea bargains, Vick is on his own to cut a deal or face trial on federal charges. As negotiations on that plea deal continue, our Kelly Naki reports on today's developments. And be warned, some of the details are very graphic and very disturbing.
Co-defendants Quantis Phillips and Pernell Peace confirmed many of the allegations in the federal indictment, saying that Michael Vick funded the dogfighting operation, provided money for gambling, was present at least 5 fights, and participated in the execution of dogs. In their statement of facts, it was acknowledged that this past April, Vick, Peace, and Phillips killed approximately 8 dogs who did not perform well in testing sessions by hanging and drowning them. There are additional details about those killings that were not mentioned in that document. Sources told me that Vick, Peace, and Phillips initially hung all of those dogs in the woods behind Vick's house, but that at least 3 dogs survived the initial hanging attempt. In order to finish the task, Vick, Peace, and Phillips submerged the surviving dogs' heads in 5-gallon buckets filled with water until they drowned. In Richmond, Virginia, I'm Kelly Naki.
Okay. Doesn't end there, though. Look, I don't want to make this about me because it isn't, but I'm here talking, so I might as well tell you. Going over the details of this case 15 years later, or however many years later. Let me see, 18 years later, hurts me. It hurts. I did not want to talk about the details of the Michael Vick thing, because my hatred of Michael Vick and the people who were involved in that, and indeed anybody who's involved in dogfighting, is so intense that it makes me a little bit worried about myself sometimes, But it doesn't end there, and I'm going to play one more little clip, and then I promise we're going to get to Garlic Bread, and I'm doing all this in order to put Garlic Bread's comments into perspective. Let's listen to this. This is the the Bad News Kennels. That was the name of the kennel, the dogfighting operation. I want you to listen to this. I do not do trigger warnings on the channel, as you know, but I have to warn you that this is very, very bad. All right, let's continue.
Investigator provided more detail on the April 2007 killings, saying that the men hanged approximately 3 dogs, quote, by placing a nylon cord over a 2x4 that was nailed to 2 trees located next to the big shed. They also drowned 3 dogs by putting the dogs' heads in a 5-gallon bucket of water. One time, in spring of 2003, Peace, after consulting with Vick about a losing female's condition, executed the dog by wetting her down with water and electrocuting her. End quote. From Jim Gorin's book, The Lost Dogs, quote, "As the little red dog lay on the ground, fighting for air, Quannas Phillips grabbed its front legs, and Michael Vick grabbed its back legs. They swung the dog over their heads like a jump rope, then slammed it to the ground. The first impact didn't kill it. So Phillips and Vick slammed it again. The 2 men kept at it, alternating back and forth, pounding the creature against the ground until at last, the little red dog was dead." End quote.
Okay. If you watch The Champions, they will describe the condition that the dogs were in, what they found in the area where the dogs were housed, the way that they found claw marks in the sheds because the dogs were so desperate to escape, and the fact that 47 of the dogs were able to survive. They were able to survive, and a number of them were rehabilitated and were placed with families and became therapy dogs, nanny dogs, and all that. If you if you watch that documentary, you'll see the progression, the progress that these animals made, which was nothing short of miraculous, and shows you what dogs are capable of when we give them patience, love, kindness. So let's just say, no, don't worry, Carrie-Ann, I'm not going to play any more horror stories. So let's just say that when it comes to this kind of thing, I take a very dim view of people who make excuses for animal abusers, dog fighters. And Gorlic Bread has done that. In the stream that I did, the first one that I did, about the Gorlic Bread Yo Mama thing, we discussed the case of a content creator called J Melflow. Gorlic Bread, in his video, tried to make Yo Mama out to look like a monster, because the way that Gorlic presented J Melflow was a mentally ill, confused young man who was running from his family because they wanted to have him committed. Well, yeah, they did want to have him committed for obvious reasons. J Melflow was an animal abuser. J Melflow posted a picture of his dog showing that he, J Melflow, got annoyed with the dog because the dog was running around while he was trying to stream or something. And he taped the dog's muzzle shut and the paws together. And he was stupid enough to post that picture on Twitter. He ended up getting arrested and serving 2 years, which is interesting because Michael Vick served 18 months and J Melflow served 2 years. Isn't that something? Shows you that Michael Vick had very, very, very good legal representation. That's what money will buy you. But Gorlic Bread painted this guy as a victim. He was not a victim. I don't give a shit how mentally ill you are. Abusing an animal is not the way to go. And there's no excuse for it. And the way that Gorlic presented it as this poor guy who, was victimized or something by Yo Mama was completely and totally inaccurate. Totally inaccurate. And interestingly enough, Gorlic Bread never mentioned the dog with the taped muzzle and the paws. He never brought that up. That's an interesting thing to leave out of a roast video against somebody that you don't like. Well, Gorlic bread. It's interesting what you can find. And thank you to the people who brought this to my attention. This is a video that was uploaded. Wait a minute, let me look. Oh, this video was uploaded 10 months ago. 10 months ago. Gorlic, you knew that this video existed. You knew that this video was floating out there. You think nobody was going to run across it? You thought that nobody was going to point out what you said in this video. Let's listen to what Gorlic Bread had to say.
Transparency. He doesn't even understand the context of the charges in which he's bringing up. Now,
YouTuber Yo Mama had made a video inaccurately stating 17 dogs had died in the dogfighting ring. The actual number was 4. I don't think that that's the actual number. The number 4 is the number of dogs that were euthanized when the dogs were rescued. A great many more dogs were killed in the dogfighting process, but whatever. Okay, I'm not here to nitpick. Here, Moody Gorlic Bread, in my opinion, seems to be making an effort to downplay the charges. That being said, 47 dogs had been rescued from unspeakable and heartbreaking conditions. In the video, Ryan Moody Garlic Bread would go on to defend himself against the accusations he was a fan of Michael Vick. He went on to defend himself by praising Michael Vick.
full disclosure, I've met Mike Vick, and Mike Vick was extremely kind to me in person. And I do appreciate that Mike Vick has handled his situation with such dignity, that he's repaid his debt to society and understood that he can use his story as an example to reach out to at-risk youth and help them understand the decisions they make and how they can impact them the rest of their life, not just beyond their career.
Found treadmills, whips, chains, injectable drugs, one of the biggest and most elaborate dogfighting compounds they've ever seen.
He made the next video
That the mother has horrific, unspeakable charges. And this community has always been very, very much about the protection of animals.
Yep.
And we learn that some of these charges are involving the possibility of an animal losing its life.
Huh.
Taking
Okay.
responsibility for something she is in complete control and care of. And if, in fact, this cat is in discomfort based on Chantal's actions yet again, I'm sure the community is going to be very frustrated with the way Chantal takes care of her animals, which, of course, mirrors the way she takes care of herself. Here, I'm on this channel, I'm on YouTube in general, just to make money. That YouTube is solely about the money for me. And I really don't understand that mindset. I mean, more so when we both have monetized channels. How can you watch someone's content and assume that the sole reason they're creating it is just for income? More so when my channel was not monetized before. Full disclosure, I've met Mike Vick, and Mike Vick was extremely kind to me in person. And I do appreciate that Mike Vick has handled his situation with such dignity, that he's repaid his debt to society and understood that he can use his story as an example to reach.
Okay. Michael Vick will never repay his debt to society, in my book. Never. Nobody involved in dogfighting will ever repay their debt to society. Profiting off of that industry is an indication that a person is a psychopath with no empathy. Anyone who could stand by and watch a blood sport like that needs to be put on a fucking list. That is my firmly held belief. I have said that Michael Vick is very lucky that I was not the judge sitting on the bench hearing that case. I would have taken the sentencing guidelines. I would have thrown them out the fucking window. I would have told his high-priced lawyer to go fuck himself. And as I've said before, because I believe in an eye for an eye, I would have said, Mr. Vick, you have the choice. Drowning, hanging, or electrocution. You pick. We're not savages. We're not going to put you through all three. Pick one. And now we have another one. Maybe we can get a bunch of guys to swing you over their heads and smash your skull into the floor until it splits open. We'll give you that option too. Since you have so little respect for life, you're done. You're done. So, in other words, Ryan Moody was so starstruck meeting a sadistic, evil man who profited off of the suffering of animals that he's like, oh, he was very nice to me. And who cares if he was nice to you? Ryan Moody, did you ever watch a single news report about what that kennel was like? Did you ever see the chains? Did you ever see the benches that they used to strap the female dogs to breed them? Did you see how the female dog's teeth were filed down so that they wouldn't turn on the males that were mating with them? Did you know that Michael Vick used to take his children's pets and use them as bait for his dogs? Did you see the condition that the dogs were rescued in? The dogs that were so terrified you couldn't even touch them? Did you see how much work it took to rehabilitate those animals? The way that they walk crouched on the ground because they were so afraid of humans. They didn't want to be around a human being. They didn't know how to navigate stairs. They didn't know what it was like to receive love or proper feeding or treats or love or belly rubs or anything. Did you see the hell that that man and his scumbag associates put those dogs through for their entertainment, their sick, twisted entertainment? I would be very curious to find out how much money Michael Vick made on that operation, because, you know, he lied and he said, oh, you know, this had nothing to do with me. Well, then we had eyewitness accounts that Michael Vick was personally involved, not only in the gambling operation and the dog operation itself, but also took a personal interest in killing those dogs with his bare hands in some of the most inhumane, sadistic ways possible. But Ryan Moody's a fan because Michael Vick was nice to him and because Michael Vick repaid his debt to society. Ryan Moody, you are one of the biggest idiots, one of the biggest simps I have run across in a very, 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 very long time. I have heard a lot of people make excuses for Michael Vick over the years, and they're always the same excuses. It's always the same shit over and over and over again. Like I said in the beginning, why do people care about dogs so much? Instead of dogs, you should care about fill in the blank, something that I care about. How about we care about multiple things at once? And how about you show that you don't give a shit about dogs? And this is 2 strikes, Ryan Moody. This is 2 strikes. You glossed over J. Mel Flo's dog abuse, and you turned it into, oh, he was just some poor kid who was lost and whose family was trying to get him committed. Poor guy. You know, so misunderstood. Why didn't you bring up in that video that you made, Ryan Moody, when you mentioned J. Mel Flo, why didn't you bring up the fact that he spent 2 years in prison for animal abuse? Why didn't you say that? Why did you leave that out? Why didn't you show a picture of the dog that he tormented, the dog that was in his care? You skipped over that. Why? And Michael Vick was nice to you. Are you going to tell me that this clip was out of context? Are you going to tell me that, oh, it's all a big misunderstanding? What we just heard was a full-throated defense of one of the most sadistic, evil animal abusers that has ever hit the news. Why? You defended him because he was a celebrity. He was a football player. Because he was wealthy. Poor guy. That poor man who went out and hired a very, 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 very expensive crisis management team to help him craft that image that he had been rehabilitated and go out on some horseshit tour, you know, writing a book and talking about his first exposure to dogfighting and how he first saw a dogfight when he was 8 years old and he became very, very intrigued by it. He knew that it was cruel. He was aware of that. But he was intrigued by it. And when he finally made it to the top of the food chain in the NFL, what did he do? He didn't open a dry cleaning business. He didn't open a barber shop or a movie theater or something that would help the community. You know, something that would help kids or, you know, help other people in the community who were down on their luck and maybe needed work or whatever. No. He opened a dogfighting business so that his rich, degenerate friends and his family could all get together to come and make illegal proceeds off of betting on the lives of innocent, defenseless creatures that he and his associates tortured and murdered. That's what he chose to do. That was Michael Vick's choice. Nobody forced him to go into dogfighting. There were literally, with the salary that he was making from the NFL, he could have done anything. He could have done what Magic Johnson did. He could have done what any number of other prominent, he could have opened a school. He could have started a Big Brother program, an after-school program. You know, he could have started so many things with that much money, but he chose to go into dogfighting. That's what he did. And because he was a quarterback and a celebrity, and because you fell for that bullshit hook, line, and sinker, that PR campaign that Michael Vick ran, because you fell for it, you decided to go out and defend this man. Oh, I think he's a changed man. I think he's great. He goes out and talks to kids and all this shit. He could have been creating jobs for kids. He could have done a summer jobs program in Virginia. He could have done a literacy program in Virginia. He could have done so many things with that money, so many good things to benefit the community, to provide jobs, education. He could have been a mentor. He could have done so much. Do you know how hard it is to get to that point where you've played for so many years and by the grace of God, you haven't gotten injured? and you go through all the draft picks and you work your way up and you become a quarterback in the NFL and you make all that money, and then this is what you decide to do with it? And this is the guy whose praises you want to sing. And now you want, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And now you really have the unmitigated gall to think that anybody needs to hoist you on their shoulders and throw you a ticker tape parade, you piece of shit? No. No. You see, the reason I dislike Yo Mama is totally different from the reason that I dislike garlic bread. Totally different. With Yo Mama, it's personal. It has nothing to do with any of you. It's a personal thing. And I don't appreciate the race baiting, Yo Mama. I don't appreciate it. But Gorlic? Are you fucking kidding? You really think that anybody has forgotten what you did? You think anybody has forgotten the way that you've lied to women in the community? The way you've played women in the community? I know you don't like to discuss it, but everybody else is discussing it. Everybody saw it happen in real time. Everybody. And now you want to come out and you want to be greeted as a fucking hero? No. I want to thank, oh, I know. Oh, but Michael Vick was nice. Sure. Yeah. You had a nice run. You got a good 24 hours out of it. But if you want to come online and you want to explain how what we just heard is out of context, or you said it years ago, or you want to make up some excuse, I just heard what you said clear as a bell, Gorlic. I know that Bridget doesn't care. I know she doesn't, because she's a dishonest person, and she's desperate and embarrassing. But there are a lot of people in the community who are going to care. Maybe not the cat ladies, but the dog people are going to care very, very much. And so now I think the ball's in your court, Gorlic. I think that you need to explain yourself. You're going to go out there and say, oh, this one and that one was simping for Michael Vick? I think that you need to explain yourself. You owe the community an explanation. Hello, Judy. I'm not denigrating cat ladies, trust me. You all can be a little bit crazy. I have nothing against cats. I really don't. I actually enjoy cats. I do. But I'm a dog person. Fundamentally, I'm a dog person. I've owned both, and I'm a dog person. And I take exception to people who make excuses for individuals who make money off of blood sports. I just don't. I have no room in my heart, my brain, or anything else to try to understand where they're coming from. I could give a fuck less. I don't care where you're coming from. I don't care about your point of view. I don't want to hear it. I've been hearing it since 2007. And not a single argument has convinced me that you're right. Oh, he paid his debt to society. As I said the other day, when sex offenders are released from prison, they're put on a fucking registry. They paid their debt to society, right? They were incarcerated. They served their time. They get out, boom, they go on a registry. So all this, so that we know if they're in our neighborhood, if they're near a school, if they're near our home, And we know to point out the homes where they live to the kids and say, don't go to that house. Don't go to that house. Don't go by that house. Don't knock on the door. Don't talk to anybody who lives in that house. That's for our own safety. So the fact that Michael Vick is still getting dragged from pillar to post, not as much as he used to, but the fact that he did, I'm sorry, that's the kind of shit you can't live down. Plenty of athletes find a really, really good use for their money. Look at Dikembe Mutombo. Dikembe Mutombo, who used the money that he made in the NBA to buy school buses and to fund education programs in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is where he was from. He didn't spend his money on dogfighting. He didn't open a whorehouse. You know, he didn't do this sleazy, disgusting shit. He decided that he was going to use his money for good, and he was going to try to build up the community and the country that he came from that needed and still does need an enormous amount of help. Dikembe Mutombo is, or was, an example to live by. Dikembe Mutombo was a remarkable human being. And I have nothing but respect for him and people like him. Sadly, they're very, very few and far between in professional athletics. Very few and far between. And the fact, yeah, that's right. DMX, I know, I remember. Yep, absolutely. So, if you don't mind, Gorlic, I want you, since you're so keen on making 20 videos a day on subjects that are irrelevant, why don't you fire up that little camera and why don't you record a video explaining your simping for Michael Vick, a monster? Why don't you do that? You owe everybody an explanation because you love to point fingers at everybody else, don't you? So now, ball's in your court. You do that. You explain to us why it is that you decided to go out there, pull a clip of Yo Mama being a fucking asshole. And by the way, I don't know if anybody has done any background research. I'm sure that Bridget and Inferno forgot to do it. I'm sure that there are clips floating around out there of Yo Mama criticizing Michael Vick. Again, I didn't think that what he said about Michael Vick was funny. I didn't think it was entertaining. I don't appreciate that stupid throwaway, lazy comedy line. Oh, you know, you white people and your dogs and your pit bulls. Fuck you, Yo Mama. Okay, fuck you. But I'm sure that we could probably, not we, because I have no intention of doing it. I'm far too lazy. Oh, he'll be back. He'll be back. He will. So why don't you explain yourself, Gorlic? Why don't you do that? See, I knew after watching that video that you put together, I knew that something was going to emerge. I knew it. It was only a matter of time. I knew it. So good work. Now, I'm going to close out because I'm sick of talking about horrible, dark subjects, and I can't stand garlic bread. He's a piece of shit. So I will talk about a funny, dark subject. Well, not really dark, but not really dark. So Snow White is out, and the reviews are everything that I dreamed they would be. So I think that tomorrow I may do a Snow White wrap. Some of the best of all the reviews that have come out. In a nutshell, I mean, we're going to hear some more detailed analysis of why the movie went wrong. the upshot is that despite the fact that Disney allowed the budget of the movie to go completely kablooey, like 270 million, and that's what they're willing to admit to. I think that it probably went over 300. The movie looks cheap. The costumes look cheap. That Rachel Zegler's Snow White outfit looks like it was taken off the rack at Party City or ordered off of Amazon, and nobody bothered to tailor it to fit her. The dwarves are nightmare fuel. Even though we had all that craziness with the dwarves and Peter Dinklage and everything, there's an actual dwarf in the movie. Go figure. There are a lot of mixed reviews of Gal Gadot. The script looks like it was written by committee, and these committee members did not correspond with one another. So there are elements of the story that conflict with each other, and they don't really hang together, make sense, or anything else. And that basically the movie is a disaster, you know. And somebody brought up, I thought was a really good point. How is it that Jurassic Park came out in the early 90s and those dinosaurs looked incredible? They were so lifelike, you know. I mean, it was staggering how beautiful those dinosaurs looked, how terrifying they were. You fast forward to the year 2023, because this movie has been in production for years. And then it was delayed. And that was the other critique, that it's obvious that there were so many reshoots that editing the movie together became a problem. You know, how is it possible that they could create realistic, lifelike dinosaurs in the 90s, and they can't even make dwarves in the year 2025 or 2024, whenever they were designed, that look passable and not like nightmare fuel? And the other critique is that, with the exception of 3 of the 7 dwarves, they all look the same. And then of course, the music is terrible. It's the same generic shitty Disney, you know, the same sort of crappy songs that they're going to nominate for Oscars that are just forgettable. You know, when you compare the songs from this movie to the 1937 animation, and you think about what Disney used to be able to do with music, and how those songs from the old Disney animations, whether it was Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, or Someday My Prince Will Come, or When You Wish Upon a Star, or any of those songs, they withstood the test of time. They were all beautiful, and Disney has not done a classic, except for maybe Let It Go from Frozen. It's been years since Disney has found composers that were able to capture the feeling of a movie and turn a song into a classic. It just doesn't happen. Yeah, the golden era is over. Absolutely over. And I have decided that, much like Joker Folie à Deux, I get the point, I get the message, and I don't even want to see the movie out of morbid curiosity, even when it streams. I still haven't seen Joker Folie à Deux. I don't have the heart to see it. And I feel the same way about Snow White. I think that the reviews are far more entertaining than the movie. So, and then when you think about how the budget for this movie reached up to, what, 300 million, and it doesn't show. You can't tell where the money went. And then you look at Wicked with the practical sets, the 9 million tulips, the amazing train that they built to go from Munchkinland or from Oz to the Emerald City. $150 million. And with $150 million, they filmed 2 movies, because Wicked was divided into 2 movies. Incredible. The only good thing I heard was that Rachel Zegler can sing. Well, we knew that from West Side Story. We're aware of that. Gal Gadot is not getting the greatest reviews. They say that she is one of the biggest hams ever. But then again, when you're the evil queen, why not chew up some scenery? But that she can't sing, and, you know, there are objections to her performance. But But overall, the movie is horrible. It makes no sense, and people hate it. So, but we'll be covering Snow White very, very soon. Trust me, because we've all been waiting. Well, I've been waiting for it. Crochetter has been waiting for it for what, a year and a half. We've been waiting. Like, can't wait to see what happens, guys. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Please do consider becoming a member. Please do. Please watch The Champions, the documentary about the victory dogs, linked in the description. It's an uplifting, beautiful story. Beautiful story. And you will enjoy it. If you love animals, you will really enjoy seeing what happened to these dogs and the amount of love, patience, and care that went into rehabilitating them, and how much their owners adore them, and what a wonderful life they had after they were rescued from that monster and his abattoir. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate all of you, and I will see you guys the next time. See you later, guys.